Well, good morning. Here I am on a secret mission somewhere on the south coast. I thought I'd take the opportunity today, whilst I'm working on this secret mission, I am genuinely working today, doing the secret mission, about the first classic car that I ever owned. It was in 2005 that I bought it, November 2005, and it was a 1980 Triumph Dolomite 1500 SE. Now, the Triumph Dolomite is a car that's very familiar, I think, to many in the classic car world, and I really wanted one. I think I've been watching the professionals far too much, and of course in that, in the first series, Lewis Collins has a main car for the first, I don't know, 2/3 of the series, and that is a Dolomite. It's a POK 79R. Mine was TSF 33V. I've only got a couple of pictures of it. They're from a very old camera phone that I had at the time, and yeah, they're not the best quality, but one of them you would have seen in the thumbnail. It was a car that had been modified. It had a very tasteful kind of almost period modification on it, which was the twin headlamp, the standard front end, had been changed for a 4 headlamp conversion that made it look a bit more like a Sprint, and that was something that actually made the car look considerably better, really, in my opinion. Definitely something that attracted attention. The SE was a special edition towards the end of Dolomite production. They finished making them in August 1980, and this was a special edition from 1979. I think mine was registered in about March 1980. The car is no longer on the road, by the way. It seems to have disappeared quite some time ago. I bought it from a gentleman in Scotland, and I got it trailered down to Winchester, where I was living at the time. I think I paid £750 for it on eBay. Sight unseen, all the things you shouldn't really do. I did them because I was 22 years old and I was very excited. With the money that I was making at my job, I was working for a company that is now defunct called Phones for You. My first job after university, for which you know, I worked pretty hard, because they worked you hard at Phones for You, and that was my little reward for having the Dolomite, which I'd say I was quite fond of it, really. The problem is that it wasn't in very good condition. The seller had sort of not particularly told me about some things. The screen heater was rubbish or not working. The engine temperature gauge didn't work. The tyres needed changing. They were very, very old tyres, and they weren't very good. The headlamps didn't work. I think I had probably 2 out of the 4 headlamps working. Just a litany of problems, really. I sent it to my mother's garage, which she used at the time, because my mother, you know, unlike these days where she always uses the approved official dealers, was using a small independent workshop in Southampton to get her cars fixed, and the chap who owned that proprietor was very happy to work on that car. You've got to bear in mind that, you know, this is a 25-year-old car at the time, and you know, it'd be like working on a car now from the mid-1990s, which is really strange to me, actually. But anyway, I sent it away to there, and he fixed a few of the issues. The car had been under seal, so it wasn't particularly rusty. There was a little bit of bubble on one of the wings. But the thing I found was worst about it was the fact that the choke didn't work properly. So when you started it up, the choke wouldn't stay out. It's a very common problem with old cars, and that was a bit challenging, because if the car wasn't warmed up properly and you came to a junction, you didn't hold the choke out with one hand, the car would just stall on you and you'd have to try to restart it. So it wasn't really the best sort of car for me to have, although it was very exciting. I did have a car at the time. My sister and I shared a Mark III Volkswagen Polo that was the first car that we had together, and so we had various cars. My mother had a E34 BMW 520 touring automatic at that stage. I didn't really do anything with the car, to be honest. It just sort of stayed there on the drive, and I sometimes used it. I didn't need to use it for work. I actually used to go on the bus into work because there was a reliable bus service which took me less than half an hour to get to central town. At the time I'd have to go in actually, but there wasn't even much traffic, so I'd get into work probably about 8:15, and yes, I didn't need to have the car for leisure purposes. And eventually my mother and I, my mother never was keen on it ever. She'd had a Toledo back in the day, in the mid-70s, and she just thought it was a continuation of the same kind of thing. Just a terrible car. And in some ways it was terrible. It had a nice wooden interior, it had wooden door caps, it had a very thick plush carpet. The steering wheel had been changed for an aftermarket one which had a wood rim on it. The radio was an original Unipart item that was AM only, no FM. It wasn't the full gauge package which you would have wanted in a Dolomite. It was the very basic one that came with the 1300 and the basic 1500, not the HL 1500 and the 1850 and the Sprint. And I would have wanted really to put a nice official dashboard in it for a higher trim model. The driving position was really weird. Even, I'm not very tall at 5'11", although I know some of people who watch the channel are shorter than me, and not a problem or anything. But I sat there and it wasn't the best. It wasn't like a Mini, which is one of the strangest in terms of ergonomics of driving position I've ever seen. But it really was not as comfortable as so many modern cars I drive in, such as the one I'm driving at the moment. This is very nice and comfortable, I have to say. So it wasn't very suitable for long journeys. It was only a 4-speed gearbox. The ratios were quite long ratios on it. It felt a bit like a Type N gearbox on a Ford Capri, which is only a 4-speed. You could have got an overdrive actually on the HL, but this didn't have it. And when I went to insure it, I insured it as an HL because they just couldn't find it on their system. I think I paid something like £280 for insurance, which, considering that was with Admiral and not even on a classic car policy, that was very, very good for someone who was 22. Very good. And I used the breakdown cover light on the RAC immediately because the brake servo hose had actually perished on one end, and so I called up the RAC to come and fix it, and they just refitted the brake servo hose. It was too long, so they just cut the hose, refitted it, put it back on. I think it was held on some Jubilee clips. I also changed the battery myself. The battery was dreadful, so I changed it. It was just held on with 2 wing nuts, I think. The bonnet on a Dolomite just swings forward. It doesn't sort of move up towards the windscreen. It moves sort of forward like a Saab or one of those early BMWs, an E28, I think, is like that. And yeah, it's a lovely looking car. I used to really enjoy driving it, despite the fact it was quite slow. I mean, it's only 71 horsepower in a 1500 Dolomite, and it was a bit noisy because the engine in that car dated back, well, originally to the old Standard 8 times, and that was 1953, so it was just an enlarged one of those, so nothing like the 1850 or the Sprint or anything. But Sprint alloy wheels as well, which is a very popular conversion, I think, as well, on the 1500 SE, if they're still around. There are still a few, and it was great. But come sort of February time, my mother was fed up with it, and she said, well, what we're going to do is we'll get rid of the Polo and we'll get rid of the Dolomite and we'll buy one car. That'll be more sensible for all of us, that's what we'll do. So yeah, obviously you're a bit fed up with this Polo. It's just a bit boring get something better. So we got a 2003 Seat Leon 1.4S, which to my mind was not a particularly exciting car, not very fast, but it was quite new at the time. I think it was only about 3 years old, and I had had a good few years actually that car. So anyway, that was the experience I had with the Dolomite. It didn't put me on classic cars for life. It just made me, you know, a little bit cautious as to owning another one. And you know, when I got older, as I am now, I'm very keen on the things. But you know, I recognise that actually sometimes modern cars are better to have as well. That's why we own both. So thank you ever so much indeed for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more random thoughts about things, and don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. Hopefully I'll be on some more secret missions for work at some stage. We've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, and also Instagram, instagram.com/Lloyd_vehicle_consulting.